Okay. So I need a new sprite. I'm gonna go over to Piskel and just really quickly make like a little bird sprite for my cat to interact with. I'm actually gonna make this even smaller. I'm gonna do like 16 by 16. Hopefully I'll be able to draw something that looks good in this very small window. Let's do like a red bird so it'll stand out from our blue character. And I'm just going to do something very simple, just like a 2-frame animation of a bird. So I'll draw like a little circle. That color is a little bit bright. I might tone it down a little bit. And I'll draw a little bird head over here, a little beak, and then some wings. That looks pretty bad. I might need more space than that. Let's erase a little bit here. Okay, I'm gonna try a little bit better. So I'm gonna use some guides first. So let's do a little circle like that, and another circle like that. Okay, that's better. I'll fill these in. And then I'll do a little wing like that, and a little wing like that. And let's move him down like that. And that's pretty good. Let's make a new frame. I'll erase the wings and draw them somewhere else. So I'll go up like that and like that. Okay, that'll be my little bird. Very, very simple. I'm not trying to do anything too crazy. And so remember, once we've got the art that we like, we want to save this. So I'm going to save it as a bird and save that as a .piskel file. So when I save that, that's going to be in my downloads folder on my computer. I just want to make sure I get this into my project folder. So I have a few tabs. Let's get rid of this for a second. So I moved all this stuff onto my desktop just to make it easier to find. So I'm going to drag this art onto my desktop and into this MMP 210 folder and put it in my art folder. And then I'm going to download it as a sprite sheet. I downloaded my character at 2x, so I'm going to download the bird at 2x as well. If this doesn't work out, I can always, open this up and download it at another resolution. So I'm going to click download zip. And so then I'm going to go back to my downloads folder. Here's my bird.zip. I'm going to drag this to my desktop and into my MMP 210 folder and into my art folder. And then I just double click to unzip this. And I can delete the zip file once I do that. So here's my 2 sprites for my bird. Pretty simple. But we just want some basic motion just so we know that, the sprite that we're making kind of has some, represents something. So let's go back to Scratch, and we're going to upload this new sprite. And then I'm going to go over a bunch of different behaviors that we can add to the sprite. But I'm going to let you guys kind of put everything together, just like we did last time. And you might have different things that you want to do with a sprite, so you'll have a chance to kind of explore some different options. So I'm going to go over here to my new sprite button, and I'm going to click the upload sprite here. And so I'll go to my desktop and go to my art folder and get this bird sprite. And I just want the first one. If I choose 2 images, it's going to make 2 sprites. I just want 1 sprite for now. So I'm going to click open. And here we see my little bird sprite. So that looks pretty good. I'm going to click on this and go to costumes. And I'm just going to add, I'm going to upload the second sprite. And for the bird one, I'm not going to do anything too complicated for now. So I just have like the basic animation. I'm just going to call this flying_1. And then let's call this flying_2. And we're just going to repeat these. I'm not going to change the animation quite yet. I'm just going to keep it kind of simple. Eventually, we'll add things where, you know, if we capture the bird, we see some type of animation or something. Okay, so let's go back to our code. And so notice when I click on the main character sprite, I get all of my code for that character. And when I click on the bird sprite, there's no code. So the code that we add is specific to each sprite in our program. And so the behaviors that I add to the bird are only going to affect the bird, and, you know, vice versa. Okay, so with the bird sprite, what we want to do is we want to have the bird coming down from the top of the window. And, you know, we're not going to program this today, but if it interacts with the player, you know, something will happen. And then if it hits the bottom of the window, we're going to remove it and we're going to start over again. So there's a bunch of different parts to that. I'm going to show you guys, you know, different options. And then, you know, you can figure out how to put them together. Okay, so with our bird, when we start, I'm going to grab a clicked here. When we start the bird, we're going to want to change the position. And so we're going to go up to motion here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a random position. So if I go to random position, if I click this, you can see it just puts the bird in a random position. So this is good for games where you want some unpredictability. If the bird comes from the same place every time, it's going to be pretty easy to avoid the bird or, you know, capture the bird, depending on what you want to do. So there's a couple of things you can do with GoTo. You can also choose like a sprite or a mouse pointer, but we're just going to stick with random position. But then I want the bird to be at the top of the screen. So I'm going to, after I set the random position, I'm going to change Y. So I'm going to set Y to, and I'm going to set it to like -100. So it'll go to the top of my canvas or my play area. Actually, I need to go the other direction, 100. Okay. So now every time I click this, I get a random X position, but the same Y position. Let's actually go to like 150 maybe. Okay, so that's pretty good. Okay, so that's one thing we want to do. Another thing is we want the bird to go down. So far we've only learned how to go left and right with our move 10 steps. If I throw this over here and I move the bird, it's always going to be going like that. I could turn the bird. I could turn the bird like 90 degrees and then it'll go down. But that looks weird visually. That's not actually what I want. What I want instead is change Y. So if I go to change Y and I say -10, now we can change Y. I still have the direction, so let's set that back to 0. Oh no, I guess it was set to, oh, the default is 90. I always forget that. Okay, let's leave this at 90. So now I can change Y by 10, and eventually I get to the bottom. And when I hit the bottom, it can't go anywhere after that. So Scratch kind of has these defaults that would not normally be in a programming environment, but Scratch is organized to make games. So it knows that we don't want our sprites to go outside of the canvas. So Scratch does that for us. We'll see when we do P5 that we have to do that ourselves. Okay, so we can move. So we can start the bird here. We can move the bird here. Now we need to reset the bird. Okay, so we can check. There is a sensor called touching, and this will sense if our sprite is touching the edge, and that's any edge. So I can go to edge here, and this is, remember, this is a little diamond shaped block, so it can't really do anything on its own. We need an if, so we need a if touching. And remember, if, we really need that to be happening all the time, so we need that in a forever. And so now, if we touch the edge, what we can do is we can reset our sprite. So we can grab this block and throw it in here. So now if I change this, it's going to keep doing that. Okay. But now this prevents us from starting with this, you know, with our clicked thing. So let's talk about another type of event that we can do. We can broadcast. So broadcast is really useful if we want to do something in different cases. Broadcast is just sending out like a signal, and so we can attach different blocks of code to different signals so that they can happen, you know, different times, so we don't have to repeat ourselves. So remember last time, earlier today, I was talking about how a lot of the code looks like it's repeated. One of the ways we can stop repeating these structures over and over again is using broadcast. So we can broadcast a message when we click and when we touch the edge. So let's make a new message. So let's say spawn bird. So whenever we broadcast spawn bird, we're gonna spawn our bird here. So we're gonna broadcast spawn bird when we touch the edge and when we click the green flag. So then we can say when I receive spawn bird, now if I run this, if I change this, we'll see when we hit the here. Oh, I didn't start this. Whoops. Okay, so when I hit the edge, it's gonna spawn the bird. Okay, so that's pretty exciting. That's one way to do it. Let's look at something else we can do. Again, you guys, there's a million different ways to do every little thing in programming. There's never one right way to do things. So part of what we want to do is like explore different ways of doing the same thing. So if you wanted to have multiple birds instead of just one, you can clone a sprite. So instead of making extra sprites down here, I could duplicate this sprite down here, but I can also clone the sprite within my code. Okay, so let's look at that. So here's a little clone button. Okay, so create a clone of myself, and then when I start as a clone. Okay, so these guys go together. So when I start as a clone is sort of like the flag clicked, but it's when we have a new clone. So let's say create clone of myself when I start as a clone, then we're gonna broadcast spawn bird. So that changes the position. So if I create a clone, now there's two birds. And if I do this, this guy's going, but this guy needs his own code. So that's one thing you guys can work on. And if I keep clicking this, I'm just gonna keep getting more birds. So another thing that I can do is I can end my clone. So where's that? So in control, I have delete this clone. So if I delete the clone in my forever statement here, and I create a clone, let's stop this and start it again. So if I change this guy, so it's gonna delete this guy, and I have to hit this and start a new one. Okay, so there's a few different ways we can achieve the same idea. We can, if we hit the edge, we could broadcast spawn bird, or we could add, let's say we add create clone to when I receive spawn bird. So now, if I do this, it should make a couple of them. Oh, I got an error. I might have an error. Let's see if it works this time. Yeah, I got an error. Okay. Why am I getting an error? I can't really read it. Let's see. What does this error say? Oh, something weird is happening. Oh, I have a lot of birds. That's not an error. It's just a big red block of birds. Okay. Oh, because yeah, this is dumb. I shouldn't have written this way. Let's see. Oh, yeah, no, I don't want to do this. Okay. Don't do that. What if I want to create 2 birds? Let's just, instead of broadcasting to spawn, let's just create a couple clones. That's what I want to do. Okay, so now I should have 2 birds instead of 1,000,000. Or none. If touching edge to create clones. When I start as a clone, spawn bird. Okay. Not exactly sure why that's not working. Let's try it one more time. There we go. Okay. Okay, so you can create multiple birds, you can delete birds, you can just create one. There's a bunch of different options here. Again, I'm just going over a few different things that you guys can do. I want you guys to play around with it and come up with something that's interesting for what you want to do with your game. And then just like this week, next week I'll go over, here's one implementation of this where everything works together. And then what we'll start to do next week is we'll create some interactions between the bird and the cat. So we'll look at some different ways to do that as well. Okay. Oh, and my bird animation isn't happening, but you guys know how to animate stuff, so I'll let you do that too. Just keep that in mind. We should have an animation, but we already learned how to do animation. You guys can work on that as well. And yeah, that's it for me for now. Any questions on any of those new blocks or components? Okay, so I'm gonna stop this.